Invictus! Alright, so we're finally back to take a look at Soul Reaver 2. So this game starts off with a recap of the ending of the last game, so that's real good, because it's been a while. Let's get right into that.
At last. I must say I'm disappointed in your progress. I imagined you'd be here sooner. Tell me, did it trouble you to murder your brothers?
Did it trouble you when you ordered me into the abyss?
Eternity is relentless, Raziel. When I first stole into this chamber centuries ago, I did not fathom the true power of knowledge. To know the future, Raziel. To see its paths and streams tracing out into the infinite. As a man, I could never contain such forbidden truths. But each of us is so much more than we once were. Do you not feel with all your soul how we have become like gods? As such, are we not indivisible? As long as a single one of us stands, we are legion. Our futures are predestined. Mobius foretold mine eons ago. We each play out the parts fate has written for us. Free will is an illusion.
I found the tomb of Saraphan, Kain. How could you profane a priest by turning him into a vampire?
How could I not? One must keep his friends close, Raziel, and his enemies even closer. Who better to serve me than those whose passion transcends all notions of good and evil?
The Saraphan were saviors, defending Nazgul from the corruption that we represent. My eyes are open, Kain. I find no nobility in the unlife you rudely forced on my unwilling corpse.
You may have uncovered your past, but you know nothing of it. You think the Saraphan were noble, altruistic? Oh, don't be simple. Their agenda was the same as ours. You nearly had me, Raziel. But this is not where or how it ends. Fate promises more twists before this drama unfolds completely.
Redeemer and Destroyer, Pawn and Messiah. Welcome, time-span soul. Welcome to your destiny. Where am I? Is the usual question. In your case, when might be more apt.
Very well, you old snake. If you'd prefer I use my bare hands.
This is completely unexpected. This orb disables our vampire enemies, leaving them helpless and incapacitated. Strangely, it seems to have the same effect on that peculiar weapon of yours. But you must believe me. I mean you no harm.
You can drop the benevolent facade, Mobius. I know who and what you are. I should kill you where you stand.
Perhaps you should, my boy. But you don't.
Are you so certain of that, Mobius?
My role as Time Guardian affords me a certain level of omniscience, Raziel. No, you don't kill me. That honor belongs to your maker, Kain, some 30 years from now.
Ah, you two are a pair. You're just as fatalistic as he is.
Death comes for us all, Raziel. It's just a matter of time.
How is it that you know my name? We have never met.
On the contrary, Raziel, I know you very well. And it grieves me to see how cruelly Kain has used you. I knew you when you were one of the Saraphan Brotherhood, Raziel. We were even close.
Oh, please.
Fortunately, you need not love me now to be my ally.
Are we within the stronghold of the Saraphan priesthood?
Yes, but the glorious days of the Saraphan have long since passed, I'm afraid. This is a more cynical and indecorous age. My mercenary army now inhabits this stronghold. We strive to honor the memory of the Saraphan with our own humble crusade.
Is this the Vampire of Orator?
Yes, the scourge of the Circle, the most depraved and decadent example of his whole degenerate race. He slaughtered 6 of my fellow Guardians as they cowered defenseless in this room.
And you somehow survived this massacre?
I and 2 others. The Circle was devastated. Only we 3 were spared.
How convenient. You'll forgive me if I don't naively devour every scrap of information you toss me. You have a reputation for deceit.
And who has slandered me so? Your malefactor, Kain? The one who betrayed and destroyed you? Our common enemy? Consider the source before you judge me too harshly. We'll forget about rekindling our old friendship then. But consider an alliance based on our common ground. We both want Kain dead. I can help you do it.
You don't want to meddle in this, old man. I know all about your sordid little schemes, but you're simply out of your depth on this one.
You underestimate me, Raziel. Let me show you. Even now, Kain is lying in wait for you, unaware that I've snatched you out of the time stream and brought you here to me. See how he lingers at the very pillars he is destined to destroy, foolishly confident that he has eluded your grasp.
The pillars are still standing in this time.
Yes, Raziel. They are the embodiment of the divine force which preserves the life of our world. We who serve the pillars maintain their delicate balance, and Kain is destined to be the fulcrum upon which that balance turns. I believe you have already endured the wasteland wrought by his terrible, selfish decision. Kain's very existence is a cancer upon this world. As long as he lives, all of Nosgoth is in peril. You may never again be human, Raziel. But you can re-embrace the essence of your humanity and the nobility of your Saraphan heritage. Go to him, Raziel, and end this. But first, you will need to find your way out of the stronghold, and in this, I'm afraid I cannot help you. My soldiers will not understand your appearance here. They will try to kill you. You needn't fear them, of course. They're no match for you. Try to keep the casualties to a minimum. But do what you have to do. All great movements require a few martyrs.
Alone now, I surveyed my surroundings.
and noticed a second time-streaming chamber. Its entrance identical to the first, but with one distinction. That crystal was significant, but how, I had not yet discovered.
Okay, so that's how Soul Reaver 2 begins, and this is the game. It looks marginally better than Soul Reaver 1, as you can see, although it's going to take a hit, because this is my recording of my gameplay. And as I try to learn how to play this game, let's just go over some things that happen in those cutscenes. First of all, we see the end of the last game. Kain and Raziel face off. Kain takes Raziel to the past using the time machine, and Raziel meets Mobius, the time streamer. And Mobius sort of starts to try to manipulate Raziel, right? So he says, "Oh, I used to know you in the past," and he tries to like push him to kill Kain. These are to interrupt that thought. These are images of Vorador killing the Circle of Nine, and you can see that the circle is kind of like depicted as like these holy like people, like they have the halos around their head, and Vorador is supposed to look like a devil, like a demon. This is to push the idea to this group of vampire slayers that vampires are evil and they're doing evil in the world. Just to take a look at it's like propaganda, I mean, of course Vorador did do this, but maybe he had a reason. Maybe we will find out about that in this game. So anyway, so Mobius meets Raziel, and he's like, "Hey, we used to be friends." Raziel's like, "Fuck off," because Raziel's heard the stories from Kain. But Mobius says, like, "Well, Kain is a bad guy, right? And he's the one who told you I'm no good. Maybe you should decide. Maybe you should think about. Maybe I am good." And he keeps pushing Raziel to kill Kain. So again, about the time period that we're in right now, this is when Mobius has gathered groups of the common folk to basically become vampire hunters. Oh, these are pictures of the Saraphan. Again, notice that they're like depicted as angelic. Those are the ancient vampire hunters, right? The Saraphan. What Raziel was a part of in his human life. But these guys that we're hunting down now, like this gentleman, take that! The fighting in this game is it's actually worse than the last game, which is insane. And I might make a video of just me losing my fucking mind playing this game. But these guys are just the general country folk that have been stirred up because of the death of William the Just. Mobius has taken that and created this legion of vampire hunters who are just kind of normal people. And you can see that he has that orb on his staff that weakens vampires. Kind of makes them helpless, and it also, for some reason, works on the Soul Reaver. The spirit version of the Soul Reaver is nullified when Mobius has his staff in the room, so that's important too. So Mobius basically sets Raziel off to kill Kain, and he says, like, "Oh, I don't mind if you actually kill some of the people that work for me, because I can just use them as martyrs. I can basically say, oh, a vampire came through here and he killed your friends. See how terrible vampires are? Like, you can use that as propaganda to get people to rally more against the vampires, So Mobius is a manipulative fuck. He's not a good guy. Raziel knows this. We know this. It's important to keep in mind as we watch this game. Alright, so basically I'm just dealing with the terrible combat and trying to get through the stronghold here. It's all the same stuff. It's kill your enemy and steal their soul. Hold on here.
Throughout the stronghold, I discovered evidence of my former nobility and my life as a Saraphan priest. This was the heritage so foully stolen from me when Kain raided my sacred crypt and defiled me.
Over there!
So yeah, so Raziel is still upset that he was once the Saraphan, like this, what seems to be like these holy warriors, and now, you know, he's a vampire. He's like the very thing that his purpose was to destroy, right? He's still upset about that. Back to the gameplay. This terrible. So they added some stuff, like you see, I can pick up swords from these guys, which is a new weapon type. I have heavy attack now. You can kind of execute the guys, which is kind of. So like in the first game, you were fighting vampires, so you had to kill them in specific ways because they're vampires, and vampires are immortal and only die to certain things. In this game, you don't fight any vampires. So you're just fighting humans, and it's like, it's dumb. It's not as good. The fighting's not good at all. The enemies don't get, like, the enemies I'm fighting now, that's what the enemies are basically throughout the entire game. They kind of fight the same way. There are some that are different, but they don't get better. This is shifting to the spectral realm. Raziel still has all the powers that he got from devouring his brothers, like there's Malkaya's power. The spectral realm is still a thing. You can still go into this spirit world, and things are kind of different. In the spirit world, you have the Soul Reaver no matter what. And you can still go back through these little portals and come back into the real world.
Away from the influence of Mobius's cursed staff, I could feel the strength of the Soul Reaver slowly returning. If that orb was as debilitating to vampires as it was to the blade, it gave Mobius a powerful advantage over his enemies. I finally understood how Mobius's crusade could decimate the vampires so successfully. If he could immobilize his enemies, they were at his mercy. But why, I wondered, would the staff have any effect on the Reaver? As I neared the Stronghold's inner sanctum, a strange sensation crept over me. An indescribable feeling of displacement, a sense of vertigo, as reality itself appeared to warp and bend around me. The disturbance seemed to emanate from the sanctuary's furthest chapel. As I cautiously approached, the sense of dislocation intensified with each step. So this was the tomb of the beloved King William the Just, beatified here as the martyr and catalyst of Mobius's crusade. I was reminded of Kain's journey as a fledgling vampire, how Mobius coerced him to travel back in history and assassinate William, thus igniting a genocidal hatred of vampires among the citizens of Nosgoth. And here I discovered the source of the displacement. The Soul Reaver itself, laid out like a holy relic, and broken, apparently in the battle between William and Kain. I had not thought such a thing was possible, until, of course, Kain shattered the blade against me when he tried to strike me down. Thus, the captive spirit inhabiting the Reaver was released, and binding itself to me became my symbiotic weapon. And so the Reaver met its former self, still imprisoned in this corporeal shell. I watched, mesmerized, as the Wraith blade uncoiled itself and snaked down the length of the physical blade. Embracing its twin, its mirror self, the Reaver's long-dormant spirit was now fully aroused. And for the first time, I felt the true presence of this other entity, willful, ravenous, and deranged from thousands of years of imprisonment. The Reaver was now in command, and I, now merely its helpless host, felt my soul being leeched to restore the blade. But the Reaver knew better than to destroy its host, and just as I neared the brink of oblivion, the blade released its hold on me. As I recovered, I realized we were now bound together in a fragile alliance. The Reaver no longer merely my symbiotic weapon, but a sentient parasite competing for control.
What have you done to me, Mobius? Is this your trap?
How mine? Don't forget it was Kain who led you here, not I. While you curse me, the only soul in Nosgoth ready to guide and assist you, Kain laughs at our folly and revels in your dismay.
These blades, now coiled in sinister embrace, have inspired terror in the hearts of creatures far more durable than you, old man. Bound together as they are, I can only imagine what they could do to your soul's fragile shell.
Raziel, I beg you to stay your hand. This was none of my doing. I have sought only to aid you in your righteous quest.
Why, you're trembling, Mobius. Has your confidence abandoned you? You seem to have made a fatal error by leaving your precious staff behind. Is that where all your courage comes from?
Listen to me, Raziel. You don't know what you're doing. I have taken an enormous risk by appearing here before you, so defenseless, yet eager to prove my good intentions. If there's anything left of the Saraphan in you, you won't do this. While you threaten me, your true enemy eludes you.
Don't concern yourself with Kain, old man. He'll join you in hell soon enough. As you said, death comes for us all.
Yes, the wheel of fate demands it.
What did you say?
The wheel of fate. The inexorable cycle of death and rebirth to which all men are compelled. We serve the same God, Raziel. To strike me down would be striking God's own attendant. And I don't believe even you would take that risk.
I tire of your games, Mobius. Now that I know you fear me, I needn't concern myself with you. Kain is waiting for me.
Go then, Raziel. Seek Kain out and destroy him in the name of the one God we both serve. You, who were once a Saraphan priest, murdered, profaned, destroyed, and reborn again from his mercy. You are now most powerfully equipped to be his agent, his instrument of restoration and retribution.
My own vengeance is motivation enough.
By my soul, you almost had me, my little blue assassin. But that'll be the one and only chance you get. I assure you of that.
I could now summon the blade at will, regardless of my strength. But once summoned, the blade's ravenous appetite could not be contained. It devoured the souls of its victims, and if I allowed it to become over-aroused, the Reaver would now turn its hunger on me.
Alright, so there's a lot happening in this cutscene, so we're gonna have to go over it again and talk about what exactly is going on. So, Raziel enters a part of the stronghold and he feels something is weird. Like there's a sense of vertigo, a sense of like reality warping around him. And he follows that feeling and finds the tomb of William the Just, the good king that eventually became the nemesis that Kain went back in time to fight. And you can see there on a picture on the wall, they both have the Soul Reaver. William has the one that Mobius gave him, and Kain has the one that he found in the future that he brought back in time to face William with. And they clashed, William lost, Kain won, and that is what Mobius used to ignite the vampire crusades with. Because William was such a beloved king, he was killed by a vampire, let's kill all the vampires, right? So there, Raziel finds the shattered Soul Reaver. And he mentions that he didn't think that that would be possible, except that it happened again when Kain used the Soul Reaver on him, right?
Inhabiting the Reaver was released.
At this point, the Soul Reaver that's attached to Raziel's arm, the spirit version of the blade, finally shows itself, because I guess Mobius' staff is far enough away, and it can kind of feel its former self in the blade, and it uses Raziel's life to repair the old Soul Reaver.
The Reaver's long dormant spirit.
So it kind of pulls the sword back together, and this explains how in the future Kain finds the Soul Reaver, you know, back together, fully repaired. And while this is happening, Raziel feels like the entity. He feels the spirit attached to his arm, and he's like, this thing is crazy. Like it's ravenous, it's hungry, it's powerful, and it's insane because it was imprisoned for thousands of years, and it almost kills him, like trying to fix itself. But it doesn't want to completely destroy him, so it kind of like, after it's done, it kind of lets him go, but it's more powerful now. And in this game, when you use the Soul Reaver, it actually can kill you. So then Mobius shows up, and Raziel's like, is this like a trick? Like, what did you do? And he's like, it wasn't me. And you can see like that in this encounter, because he doesn't have his staff to weaken the blade, Mobius is terrified. Probably because Raziel is holding the most powerful weapon in this lore. You know, this weapon like turns demons into pulp and feeds on them, and you know, now it's like two Soul Reavers wound up, like bound together. And Raziel even says, he's like, I wonder what this would do if I hit you with it. And I kind of wish he did, because I could. I think that would be cool. Yeah, he's like, well, I wonder what this would do if I used to hit you. Mobius is super not thrilled with that idea, and he begs Raziel not to kill him. And in his begging, he mentions the Wheel of Fate. And Raziel's like, what? And Mobius picks up on that. That Raziel and him serve the same god. So what that means is Mobius worships the Elder God, the god that resurrected Raziel. The giant, like, massive eyeballs and tentacles that revived Raziel and set him loose on his brothers and Kain. And upon hearing this, Raziel like kind of gets an idea of what Mobius is about. And he has mercy on him. He doesn't destroy him. I think Raziel is just looking to see if Mobius is actually omniscient, or if he like is afraid to be killed. And once he finds out that he is, he just leaves him. And Mobius once again is like, oh, kill Kain, like pushing kill Kain, as Raziel leaves, just trying to drive into his head that he needs to kill Kain. But Raziel's like, I don't need your help, like I hate that guy. I'm definitely gonna kill him, don't worry about it. What's interesting is Raziel doesn't take the Soul Reaver. I guess he figures he already has one, but the two of them together probably would have made the game a lot easier. And then as Raziel leaves, Mobius is like, oh shit. Like, holy crap, I almost super died hard. I almost super died real hard back there. And he's like, I'm not gonna be that vulnerable again. So now that the Soul Reaver is more powerful, you can use it at any time. But the more you use it in this game, the more powerful and ravenous it gets. And if it gets too powerful, it will actually start to kill you. That only happens in the material world. It'll destroy Raziel's physical body, but it won't hurt him in the spectral realm. Okay, so now let's take a look around this area. This is William the Just's mausoleum, I guess. That. We'll find out what that is in a second. I'm not sure if there's much else to see here.
So this was the
yep.
legendary Janos Ordrin, reputed to have been the most ancient and diabolical vampire to have ever existed. According to folklore, he lived high in the cliffs of Nosgoth's northern mountains and preyed mercilessly on the defenseless villages below. His reign of terror ended when the Saraphan finally hunted him down and tore his throbbing heart from his still-living body. This relic came to be known as the Heart of Darkness, and was supposedly imbued with the power to restore vampiric unlife. The Saraphan therefore guarded it carefully, lest the heart fall into the hands of their enemies. But I wondered, could Janos Ordrin truly have been as monstrous as depicted here? Or was this merely artistic license by the Saraphan, who sought to lionize themselves by demonizing their darkest enemy?
So that's just basically retelling the story of Janos Ordrin. Just the Heart of Darkness restores vampiric unlife, and it's important to keep in mind for the rest of the story.
Strange how my history came full circle. This chapel, I realized, was a memorial to my former Saraphan brethren and myself. All of us martyred here, and then so cruelly profaned by Kain when he imposed his gift on our noble corpses. For the first time, I beheld the image of my Saraphan self, memorialized here among my fallen comrades. It tortured me to see how noble and pure I had been, and what a vile phantasm I had become. And a profound sense of injury, of loss and betrayal welled up in me, so overwhelming I could barely contain it. All I wanted at this moment was to find Kain and destroy him.
And then these people who were apparently on the ceiling just drop in and start fighting us. Okay, so this room is a... I'm going to try to use the Soul Reaver to destroy these people. Fucking combat in this game is terrible. Disintegrate things with the Soul Reaver, and you can see there it's getting like more powerful. Okay, so this is Raziel's brothers and him. This is... who is this? That's Terrell. That's the brother that got away. One of the two that tossed him into the abyss. That's Rahab. That's the fish guy. This is Melchiah. You can tell because he's the bald one. And then over here is, I think this is Durrell. Yep, that's the big guy that we incinerated. And then this is Zephon, the spider guy. So those are all of Raziel's brothers as they were as humans, and this is Raziel himself. Raziel gets a statue. I guess he was their leader. But Raziel feels like very violated seeing his former self.
I emerged, and for the first time beheld Nosgoth in its former glory. The land overflowed with abundant life and vitality, and I knew with certainty then that the world I had left behind was nothing more than the corpse of Nosgoth, a lifeless husk bled dry by the corruption of Kain's parasitic empire. This was the fragile world Kain sacrificed to preserve his own petty life and ambition, heedless of the profound cost. The sight only deepened my resolve. I sensed that the pillars lay to the northwest. If Kain truly waited to confront me there, I would not disappoint him.
So yeah, so this is the first time that Raziel sees Nosgoth not destroyed. There's life, there's trees, there's waterfalls, there's animals, creatures, right? It's beautiful. And he feels even more like, oh, like we were we ruined this, like, you know. And this, like, hardens his heart against Kain. He's like, I gotta take care of this, because this guy destroyed everything. And then we have to do a little water puzzle. So basically, we're still in the keep. We gotta find a way to open the gates on the water and like basically just find a way out. Honestly, the swimming isn't so bad. It's not great. A lot of games, like, their swimming mechanics are terrible, but in Soul Reaver it's not so bad.
As I passed this arcane landmark, a wisp of the Reaver's energy was drawn into the ring, illuminating it. This created a beacon of sorts in the spirit world. If ever I found myself depleted in the spectral realm, and my soul tossed on the ethereal winds, these beacons would draw me back to safety and restore me.
Alright, so even though Raziel is away from the Elder God at this point, beyond the Elder God's power, he still can't be destroyed. The only things that happens to him if he takes too much damage in the spectral realm is he'll be pulled to these markers. I mean, in video game terms, they're just checkpoints. But even if you don't interact with any of them, you'll just be pulled to where he came in to this time. So Raziel is still invincible, and that is actually part of the story. He cannot be killed for some reason. Okay, I just wanted to climb up here and show you guys the Saraphan Stronghold over here to the left. Big castle.
These ancient obelisks were mysteriously attuned to my spiritual essence. By simply touching the symbol, I could safely preserve an imprint of my soul, and thus create a milestone to which I could return when weary, and from which I could resume my journey.
In other words, these are save points.
While I had only just escaped the stronghold, I sensed that in time my journey would return me full circle to this place. Infiltrating the fortress, however, would be no small feat. The balcony that had provided my escape was now well beyond my reach, leaving this massive gateway as the only means of entry. The gates were sealed, but like the time-streaming chamber I had seen earlier, their operation was undoubtedly linked to that odd crystal mounted above the entrance.
So Raziel has to find a way to interact with these crystals, which I'm sure he will find because it's a video game. And then we will journey off into the wilds of Nosgoth and find these stupid, terrible enemy vampire hunters all over the place. And I will very quickly get tired of fighting them and just ignore them because the combat is terrible. Even though that felt good. I guess they're not very good swimmers.
These vampires had nothing in common with the deranged jackals I left behind in Kain's derelict empire. They seemed to retain much of their former humanity. In this era, vampires were clearly not the uncontested predators we had been. These creatures were hunted mercilessly and oppressed. And while I still believed that vampirism was a plague and had to be wiped out, there was nothing noble or righteous in this crusade. This was simply ruthless persecution.
So Raziel finds some vampires who have been impaled, and he sees that they're like... He sees like the anguish on their face, and he sees that they're basically just human still. Like, it's not like when he was a vampire and they were this army and they had conquered the world. Like, these vampires are just kind of people, and they're being hunted down and like slaughtered. And he's like, this is not exactly... Like, vampires are a problem, but this is not... This is, like, genocide. And he feels empathy for them.
The pillars of Nosgoth, pristine, whole, and uncorrupted. I had never beheld them in this undefiled state, Yet something profound and indelible resonated within me at the sight. And there, waiting at the very heart of the pillars, was the canker that was destined to destroy them.
I know you're there, Raziel.
Mobius led me to you, Kain, though I might have guessed you'd meet me here.
And if Mobius told you I was hidden on the underside of hell, would you throw yourself into oblivion to pursue me? Mobius trawls for the ignorant and unwary, hauling his gasping prey from the streams of their destinies. Stay out of his net, Raziel.
Spare me your elaborate metaphors, Kain. I have pursued you here for one purpose. You will pay for your betrayal, and balance will thus be restored to Nosgoth.
And whose will is satisfied then? The will of Raziel or Mobius?
Would I be better manipulated by you, Kain? Now, turn and face me. The chase is over.
This isn't a chase, Raziel. We are merely passengers on the wheel of destiny, describing a perfect circle to this point. We've been brought here for a reason. I've seen the beginning and the end of our story, however, and the tale is crude and ill-conceived. We must rewrite the ending of it. You and I.
Face me, Kain. Even you shouldn't die a coward's death.
Isn't it customary to grant the condemned a final request?
I recall no such courtesy from you.
Indulge me, Raziel. All I ask is that you listen. This is the sublime moment of our undoing, Raziel. The ineffable fulcrum upon which swings the entirety of our history. This is where all of Nosgoth is betrayed. In this instant, Ariel, the Balance Guardian, is murdered by dark forces bent on overthrowing the Pillars. Her spirit is just now tearing free, lost in the ether, trying to find its way here. You have already seen how she comes to haunt these Pillars.
Bound here by your refusal to die. You are the reason this land becomes diseased. As long as you remain alive, you condemn Nosgoth to an eternity of decay.
Be still, Raziel. See this. As Ariel dies, I am being born to take her place as Balance Guardian. Such is my destiny.
My God.
At the moment of my first cry, Ariel's beloved, the Guardian Nupraptor, finds her corpse. Racked with grief and tormented by suspicions of treachery, Nupraptor plunges into a madness which overflows and infects all of the Guardians who are symbiotically bound, including me. The repercussions of Ariel's assassination were expertly calculated. The entire circle descends into madness, and I am tainted at the moment of my birth, instantly rendered incapable of fulfilling the role destiny has prepared for me.
Shall I show you the same mercy you showed the rest of the circle, then? You blithely murdered them to restore their pillars, yet your hand faltered when it came to the final sacrifice. What makes you exempt, Kain? You're merely the last man standing. Why condemn me for simply carrying out what you hadn't the courage to do yourself?
Let's drop the moral posturing, shall we? We both know there's no altruism in this pursuit. Your reckless indignation led you here. I counted on it. There's no shame in it, Raziel. Revenge is motivation enough. At least it's honest. Hate me, but do it honestly. 30 years hence, I am presented with a dilemma. Let's call it a two-sided coin. If the coin falls one way, I sacrifice myself and thus restore the Pillars. But as the last surviving vampire in Nosgoth, this would mean the annihilation of our species. Mobius made sure of that. If the coin lands on the reverse, I refuse the sacrifice and thus doom the Pillars to an eternity of collapse. Either way, The game is rigged.
We agree then that the pillars are crucial and must be restored.
Yes, Raziel. And that's why we've come full circle to this place.
So after all this, you make my case for me. To end this stalemate, you must die so that new Guardians can be born.
Pillars don't belong to them, Raziel. They belong to us.
Your arrogance is boundless, Kain.
There's a third option. A monumental secret hidden in your very presence here. But it's a secret you have to discover for yourself. Unearth your destiny, Raziel. It's all laid out for you here.
You said it yourself, Kain. There are only two sides to your coin.
Apparently so. But suppose you throw a coin enough times. Suppose one day it lands on its edge.
Alright, so that was a long story-filled cutscene. Let's talk about it. So Raziel finds the Pillars of Nosgoth, and this is the first time he's ever seen them like pristine, beautiful. Like these are the way that they're supposed to be. He's only seen them like destroyed and heard stories about them from Kain. And he finds Kain in the middle of them, tries to sneak up on him, but Kain knows he's there because Kain has seen the time stream. And he knows that this point, or he knows that this meeting happens because this meeting has always happened. And he's explaining this to Raziel. He's saying, like, we do the same thing for infinity. The same events happen over and over and over again. And, like, there's no point to it. He's seen the beginning and ending of the story, and it doesn't end well. It doesn't begin well, it doesn't end well. So Raziel's like, well, you have to die in order to fix this problem. And Kain is like, hold on. Kain explains what happened to him, or what happens in the beginning of Blood Omen. He explains how he was set up, how when he was born he was instantly corrupted because of Ariel's murder and her love finding her and going mad and driving all the other Guardians mad. Kain is driven mad as a baby. He's corrupted as a baby, and he has like no chance really. That's this is the corruption of the pillars. And Raziel is taken aback by like seeing it. So Kain then explains his choice. He says, on the one hand, I could sacrifice myself, and that would mean the end of vampires as we know it, which Kain didn't care about that. He just didn't want to die. And then he also says he could live, and then the pillars would be corrupted and destroyed. Those are the two choices. Those are the two sides of the coin. And Raziel's like, yeah, like you have to die for the pillars to be, restored. Which is not true, because the pillars are this is future Kain, and he from his time the pillars are already destroyed. But Kain is seeking out like a third option. He's like, all right, this is the way it's happened over and over again. But what if you throw a coin so many times that it eventually lands on its edge? There's a third option. Kain believes that there is a third option, and he is trying to find it. He is trying to rewrite his destiny and Raziel's destiny and Nosgoth's destiny. What he's trying to rewrite it to, we don't know. But he wants to go against destiny in a way that isn't stupid like it is in Final Fantasy VII Remake. I fucking hate that game. This game is so much better in terms of story. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
I didn't know what impulse stayed my hand, why I had so willingly allowed Kain to escape me when I had pursued him for so long. I had no reason to trust Kain after he had valued me so little, and yet I found myself intrigued by his words. I had been too cruelly used to so gullibly play his pawn. But if this world truly had secrets to divulge, I was determined to expose them.
So what's important to note here is Kain doesn't have any hostility towards Raziel. Even in the first game when you fight him, he's not actually trying to destroy you. Kain has a purpose. And Raziel is super, like, interested in this story and how all this works. And he's also interested in that he doesn't understand, like, everything that's going on. And Kain has a lot of really, like, good points to make. So Raziel's like, let me learn a little bit more about this, about the history of what's going on here, and let me learn a little bit more about what's going on with the world before I kill Kain. Because, like, the things you say, like, he doesn't seem to be lying. Like, he seems to be telling the truth about his predicament and you know, this false choice that he had. So Raziel has decided to travel deeper and deeper into the wilds of Nosgoth and see if we can unearth some of the mysteries here. And in gameplay terms, that means I have to fight tons and tons of very boring, stupid enemies.
From the moment of my arrival, I had the constant and palpable sensation of being watched. Someone, it seemed, was keenly interested in my presence here. From the look of it, this door had been sealed for centuries. I began to realize it was no mere coincidence that I found myself standing here, beneath this winged figure with blue skin and cloven hands so like my own, and bearing this unique key. And so it was with a sense of gravity and trepidation that I unsealed that ancient door and crossed the threshold.